Welcome to Brainfluence. I am Roger Dooley. In the last few years, I've been focused not just on marketing tactics, but bigger picture ideas and concepts that disrupt industries. Platforms and ecosystems can reduce friction by offering a new way to bring buyers and sellers together with great efficiency. In keeping with this theme, joining me today is Erich Joachimsthaler, founder and CEO of the Vivaldi Group, a global strategy and business transformation firm. Erich has both lectured and held faculty positions at universities that include Harvard Business School, IESE, Yale, Columbia, Dartmouth and Duke, and he is the author of The Interaction Field, the revolutionary new way to address shared value for business, customers, and society. So welcome to the show, Erich.
Thank you, Roger. Thank you so much.
Great. Sorry if I butchered your name, but a couple more tries and I'll get it perfectly, I'm sure.
I'm used to it.
Erich, in your book, you describe a business model that is different than platforms and ecosystems. How did you come up with this insight? Was there, a moment in the shower when something had hit you, or was it sort of an evolutionary thing? Explain that, because
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So for me, about maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, I thought there was some monumental something that sort of like piqued my interest, and there was a Nobel Prize awarded to 2 French economists that I wouldn't know existed. One of his name is Jean Tirole. They came from the University of Toulouse, and they talked about they got this award for the Nobel Prize in economics for describing a marketplace about 10 years earlier in 2004. And I found that interesting because I started to think that there is this new description of this new marketplace. This becomes a new business model that becomes more and more important today as we go on. And that's how it started. It wasn't the epiphany in the shower. The paper would have been wet.
Well, very good. Yeah, it's interesting. Some of my ideas have been inspired by economics Nobel winners as well. In my friction book, I think I quoted about 3 different ones. It's a fascinating space. Now, so explain the concept of an interaction field or an interaction field company. And how that differs from, say, an ecosystem, or a platform, because we've had some past guests discussing platform companies, platform economies. How does your interaction field concept differ from those?
Yes, there are platforms exist left and right. There's Airbnb, and there are many other versions of Airbnb. That's an ecosystem, by the way. There's a platform, there's Uber, then there's Lyft, and there are about 10 others. There's Casper, which is some type of a platform, which is a mattress marketplace. There are 150 others. There is let's say a meal kit solution called Blue Apron, some form of a platform, and there are 175 other meal kit solutions out there. Interaction fields. Now, what they all have in common, all 3, interaction fields, platforms, and digital ecosystems, they all leverage the connectivity that exists between you and me, between things, between companies, globally, anytime, anywhere. That huge technology development to enable global connections, if you will, and participation and interactions. That's sort of the foundation of all of these. Interaction field companies are, to me, a company that frames a business in such a way that it solves problems that are intractable and not solved before. You can't say this with Lyft, because Lyft solves the same problem that Uber solves. But if you look at an interaction field companies, these define the problems and frictions and social strains, and at 3 levels. Number 1, at the consumer level. Obviously, somebody buys something at some point. But then also at the industry level, because many of the problems that we are facing today aren't really solving for a better mattress or a better meal kit solution or a better way to drive from point A to point B. The bigger problems that we have is oftentimes an industry or category problem. And that's the second level. And the third level is a societal level. So when you look at an interaction field companies, they are built, unlike a digital ecosystem or a platform, they are built to solve much bigger problems that an industry or category or consumers have.
Mm-hmm. So to use your example of Casper, I guess I didn't really consider them even a platform. I thought they were just a company that made mattresses, but I guess they utilize or they support various manufacturers. Really, to become an interaction field company, they should be focused on better sleep across a huge maybe range of activities, including electronics and medicine and so on. Would that be a correct characterization?
Yeah. That's a good one. You know, framing the opportunity, I think, is a very big framing the challenges. I think that's sort of my first step in my model of whether are you solving for transportation or are you solving for mobility? Which is a bigger question. Are you solving for a better mattress, or are you solving for a larger challenge that maybe you have?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So explain the concept of velocity and how that fits into your framework.
Yeah, you see if you look at, for example, Amazon as an example, that's a platform, right? In a marketplace with millions of third-party sellers on the Amazon platform. If you look at that, there's data sharing. When you buy something on Amazon, there's an interaction, right? No, there's actually a transaction. You buy something, Amazon learns about it, and guess what? Next time you go online, you get invited and says, hey, last time you bought discount air filters, you may also want some other air humidification stuff or whatever. Or you bought recently, whatever, a book by Roger Dooley, you may want to have one by Erich Joachimsthaler, let's say, and so forth. And that's just a transaction. An interaction only between Amazon and the consumer. Now, if you look at an ecosystem, the interactions take place between a limited set of ecosystem partners. And if you look at what makes both of these business models valuable, it isn't just that it is the interaction, what's called interaction velocity, how much interaction it takes place. The more you buy on Amazon Prime, the more Amazon learn. It's called a network effect, as you well know, Roger. And the same thing with ecosystems. So limited partners participate together in order to offer a service like an Airbnb service, let's say, and they benefit from each other. If you really want to solve problems that are intractable problems, the velocity drives network effects. Then you need to look and you need to enable interactions way beyond Amazon and yourself, or way beyond just a limited set of ecosystem partners that deliver a service. Then you need an interaction field. You need to define all the interactions that influence the value creation. I give you a quick example. I studied a company called Flatiron Health. Flatiron Health started by two 24-year-old guys here in Philadelphia, in Flatiron, which is a district here in New York City. They realized that most of the medical knowledge around cancer is residing within one doctor and sometimes within a hospital, but very rarely shared across hospitals and across doctors. And doctors don't take the time to record how they treat a patient, how, the mumbling they do, the notes they take, you can't even read it. Most of these very valuable information that a doctor, when a doctor does a diagnosis and a treatment, is oftentimes lost. It's not even in an electronic health record. And they said that doesn't make any sense. 18 million Americans are diagnosed with cancer every year. What is the platform here, or what's the platform business? The platform business is you exchange data between hospitals. That could be a platform. What's the ecosystems? You may include Pfizer and maybe Roche, the providers of drugs, into the ecosystems that is part of the treatment. But that's not really the value creation. That's part of the value creation. What Flatiron Health found is that if they also include the drug administration, then what they find is that many of the drug administration and maybe other ecosystem partners, like maybe better food, healthy food diets and things like that, or programs, let's say, they found by sharing those data in an entire interaction field rather than just within a limited set of ecosystem partners, they found, number one, that sometimes you don't even need a drug in order to solve for your cancer problem. Sometimes you can actually live with your cancer without going through the headaches of a drug therapy. What they also found, and by including the drug administration as part of this interaction field, which is normally not part of a platform, an ecosystem, and sharing the data, is that the drug administration now approves drugs a lot faster than they used to drugs. Sometimes you may have a drug that is effective for mammary cancer, breast cancer, that is not approved 18 years later for maybe colon cancer. And it takes so many years to do the testing. Now, what happened now with Flatiron Health is, by sharing those data, by creating the interaction, by building an interaction field companies, by including the drug administration, they can get the drugs to suffering cancer or diagnosed cancer patients a lot faster and saving real lives. So that's what I think we need to think about. It's not about making Amazon richer and Jeff Bezos richer, or making a limited set of ecosystem partners more wealthier or shareholders more wealthy. It is about building an interaction field that maximizes the interaction velocity so that the network effect really becomes powerful. Flatiron is a good example. It's yes, the drug companies benefits. You know what happens there? The competing drug companies now work together and realize that sometimes it's actually the combination that actually works a lot better than just one. So I think that's not like an example of an ecosystem like Airbnb, where, okay, Airbnb makes their parts of the money when you and I rent an apartment to some travelers. And then, of course, there's cleaning services and other additional services that are part of the value proposition. That's different. In this particular case with Flatiron, you have an entire industry solving big problems. 18 million Americans are diagnosed with cancer every year. $1.8 million consumers or people participate in sharing all the treatment data. And from that knowledge, not only Pfizer benefits, not only Flatiron benefits, not only the hospitals benefit, not only the physician benefits, not only the patient survives, even those who have not been diagnosed benefit in this. So you have a larger social shared value creation in this particular interaction field than if you're just a company that sort of like says, let's string a few companies together to sell more stuff.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, Erich, one of my very first jobs out of college a long time ago was managing the installation of a pollution control project at John Deere Waterloo Tractor Works in Waterloo, Iowa. And, I was impressed then, and this was many, many years ago, at the company. They had, for a foundry, which foundries are notoriously dirty operations, lots of pollution, just a very filthy place to work. You could practically eat off the floor in their foundry at that time, at least. And, you know, I always respected them as a manufacturing company, but I was surprised to see them crop up as an example in your book. How can a big tractor company be an interaction field company?
Yes. You know, John Deere is a respectable company, great brand, $30 billion, best top of the line tractors. If you can afford it, it's a $600,000 monster, if you will, or sets you back as a farmer, which is a lot of money for a farmer. But John Deere is onto that stuff. And John Deere sometimes says, we are not just about a tractor company. We are about serving those close to the land. Now, and if you look at the average productivity of a farm, you know, many farms don't make money. They are subsidized by the government. If you look at the average productivity of the farm in America, most of the productive farms are in America, by the way. It's about 3,500 kilo per hectare of cereals or something. If you improve the technology on a tractor, make the tractor autonomous, which they already are mostly. You know, Tesla is still trying this for us on the highways, but on the field, on the agricultural field, exists. Now, if you were to improve and put all those technologies on the tractor, the average productivity increase is about 5%. If you get to 10%, it's huge. But it won't change much in the agricultural economics. But here's what John Deere is up to. John Deere says, what if we drop sensors on the field and we can measure the irrigation, the soil condition, the water condition, the depth of how deep a plant was planted, and what if we can capture those data in real time, all the time, even on a daily basis? And what if we do that over hundreds of thousands of farmers? And then what if we share those data, augment those data? What if we ask farmers also to give us the productivity, not only the productivity data, also the profit data? So we're actually making farms more profitable. And that's what farmers do. They share it with John Deere. John Deere aggregates the data, augments the data with weather data and whatever. And now farmers can learn from each other about how to improve the productivities. Hey, what you did over there, why is your plant growing? Now, here's the trick. If John Deere hoards those data and sells more tractors, that'll be a pity. That'll be another Amazon move, right? That will be the Amazon effect. We have the data, we can sell you more stuff. But that's not what John Deere is doing. John Deere enables an interaction field. So they share the data with fertilizer company. They share the data with Monsanto, now it's called Bayer, as the crop companies. They share the data with agricultural engineers, ag tech companies, investors, with universities and professors. And all of them together conspire and say, how do we increase the productivity of the land? By doing that, you can increase the productivity of the land of the American farm, the average farm, from 3,500 to 7,890 kilos per hectare. And if you do that, you're not only making the farms profitable, you actually solve a lot of world hunger problems. Do you know that, Roger? 40 million Americans today, Americans here in the United States, 40 million don't have enough to eat. 40 million. So we are not only solving hunger and hunger problems and healthy eating problems in this country, we actually, if every farm would adopt this, we could solve world hunger. And we know that, population is increasing to 2050 and all those things. And so many challenges. But most importantly, we also solve those frictions to your book, Roger. We solve those frictions in the agriculture. 40% of water does not reach the plant. It's getting lost somewhere. You've worked on a farm, there's a lot of things that can be done and fixing, but it requires everyone. The answer is not that John Deere sells the best tractors and the fertilizer companies around and sell buy the pounds and put as much pounds on the fertilizers on the pound to grow the plant, poor farmer. And then the crop company comes in, I have a better idea about that crop. Yeah, everybody tries to sell to farmer. If we really want to solve farming problems, this is where we start. You know, then we don't need also those subsidies. So again, it becomes a larger interaction field that we are solving for. That's sort of the interaction field that I envision in the book.
Mm-hmm. So does this work both in B2B and B2C markets, Erich?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, it's obviously John Deere is a different type of company, but there's this company I discovered. It's this metal trading company. You know, metal trading is like if you, let's be very honest, very backward. They don't use email. In trading, you use a telephone and fax, and that's about it. You know, they trust the good old technology. But the CEO, Gisbert Rühl, was enlightened and says, how can I build a platform, digital ecosystem, and an interaction field? And what he did is, and this is sort of the important part of my book, you don't have to be one of those big companies and invest in a massive, let's say, a technology infrastructure. He went with a few younger people, and he went to a separate location, Berlin in this case, and within 3 months, he started to build the first a kind of a platform business model type thing. And he shared it with his own 200,000 customers. Customers liked it, started adopting it. He worked with his own salespeople. And from that on, from that initial 3-month success, he built an interaction field company that now trades anything, you know, trades the metal from Klöckner. It also trades competitor metals. And what the business has done is he has shifted. Much of the commodity trading is now done over the platform and the digital ecosystems. And he now has focused on higher margins, higher value trading with his salespeople. So it's become a huge success story. So yes, there are B2B examples. That, if you will, Roger, is right now sort of the big 2020 sort of the big conversation. How do these B2B marketplaces evolve? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was surprised. You know, we've talked about a few sort of big problem-solving possibilities in you know, agricultural yield and fixing cancer and so on. But one of your examples is Burberry, the British, basically raincoat company or apparel company. How does a company like that become an interaction field company?
Oh, I loved it. Thank you, Roger, for asking that. Years ago, I wrote about that, about Burberry. I worked actually with Angela Ahrens on a disruption workshop, and I was in Regent Street at headquarters there, and the biggest store in London, and we deliberated how to think through Burberry, the business. And back then, the idea was that you could actually, what they did is what sort of the big innovation was. You know, normally you don't see that there's been a cycle in fashion where there is a runway show with models, and Dieter Von Teese and Karl Lagerfeld and Black Eyed Peas singer, or Michael Jackson, Mick Jagger or something would be sidelined with his wife, or Beckham or something, that David Beckham and his Victoria, his wife, would sort of be the exclusive invitees to that in the front row. And then maybe a few people would sort of report then in Vogue magazine, Anna von Wintour and things like that. And that was the show. And then 6 months later, 9 months later, whenever some of, not the runway models, dresses, but some of the ready to buy stuff would be showing up in the stores, and we would sort of like read in the magazines and through advertising that, hey, go to the store. That was the model of fashion for a long time. So they came up with this idea: what if we videotape those shows, those runway shows, and we make those products that are already shown at the time to the very celebrity type audience and the influencers, if you will. What if we make them available on video? And then they created this button called this shoppable button on your video, so you could actually see a jacket. And it's not produced yet. It's just shown in very limited on a few models. And you could, like on this video, press the button and say, buy. You know, if you have signed up with my Burberry, then, which is the platform, if you will, with consumers like me, you could actually buy that $1,500 leather jacket. And you know, you look like absolutely cool, you know, on that thing. And here's the thing. Now, if you think about this, or if in the social world, if you make this runway show available to everyone like you and me, millions of people press the button, get the order. Burberry already collects the money before they buy the leather, before the yarn, before they actually have manufacturing cost. Imagine what kind of frictions you're solving for. You don't have to discount down. You don't have to have an outlet store anymore. You produce, you have the money in the bank. You don't need financing. You have the money in the bank before you even have to buy the leather. So this would create a new business model for Burberry. And Burberry, being so amazing, was at the brink of realizing that new business model. In my book, I write the example of how they squandered that opportunity, how they could have really solved many of the problems, the frictions to your book, Roger, and solve those and eliminate many of the industry friction that we have, that is part of fashion, the fashion problem, the fashion cycle, if you will. If they had pursued with more rigor that model, it's a case of missed opportunity, a window that they could have jumped through, and they decided not to have, for a number of reasons.
Right. Well, it's always good to have some case studies in a book that don't always work out as perfect examples of what you should do. So that's great. You know, now another company that everybody is talking about these days is Tesla, and you make the point that they aren't really a car company. They are an energy company that happens to sell cars. Explain that.
Yeah, I think Tesla is a great example because, right, I think it's great because everybody thinks of it as an electric car company that enables semi-autonomous driving. And they are now the biggest industries in every country. Germany is one country, is always automotive. And in every country, the automotive makers are obsessed of converting now into electric. We have that in Germany, and also in order to match Tesla in terms of innovation. You know what's interesting about Tesla, in my opinion, is that Tesla really solves, again, those frictions that we are talking about. The electricity part actually solves for the problems of the combustion engine, you know, less CO2 emissions. And that's really where they start. And if you look at the original ideas of Elon Musk, it wasn't about the car company. It was about the environmental impact it has. Do you know that every year, every day, 100 people die on highways in America alone? 100 people. So 37,000 people every year die in car accidents in the United States. That's not the injured ones. That's not the hardship, the emotional, social hardship that family members have of losing a family members. So there is an enormous cost. I don't want to count the cost in terms of like the cars and all of those things, but that there are other things that are broken in on the process. So by producing a semi-autonomous solution called the autopilot. It's a technology. They enable that we drive safer. And they don't do that because they have a better factory or the software. They do it, you know why? Because if you drive a Tesla, and if you drive the Tesla off that parking lot, you need to commit that you keep that autopilot on. Tesla is the only car that has, the car with the most sensors on anything, on the whole damn thing packed. You know, others have sensors, but they don't have that many, you know, cameras and sensors. You need to commit that you share those data with everybody else, with the autopilot. And Tesla is the only company that has OTA, over the air updating of your dashboard. So you don't have to buy every 3-year new car. You actually get updated with the latest safety updates on a weekly or 2-weekly basis, or bi-monthly basis or something. So Tesla has built that system. But now here's the thing. Tesla also sells battery packs for your garage. Tesla sells the roof. So here's the thing. You can actually generate electricity through your roof that you store in your battery pack, that you can charge your car with and go to work if you want to go to work. You can work at home or drive somewhere. And if you have access, you can power your home. And if you have excess energy, you can submit it onto the grid, the electric grid, and actually make money. Now, did you know that 95% of cars are not utilized on an average basis? They stand somewhere. So you can, if I have a house in Santa Monica and I'm living in New York right now, I can commit my Tesla to the Tesla network. And during the months I am here in New York, I can have somebody go to my garage, open my garage, and drive my Tesla for that month. The average cost of a car in America right now is $9,000. Do you know if you subtract the rich and the rich, you know, if you look at the average American makes $40,000, it is insane to think that the average American should spend $9,000 on a car if they only have $40,000 to spend a year.
Right, that's an annual cost, right?
That's an annual cost,
right,
yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So Tesla is an interaction field company that solves very immediate problems for consumers. Highway deaths, cost of ownership, cost of electricity, and things like that. Tesla solves also a lot of industry problems, you know, because electric cars are used have a tenth of the mechanical parts that a mechanical car, average car has, so less repairs. Tesla also solves a society problem, and they do that all at the same time. So that's how we have to think about it, you know. Rather than in the old days, we would say, okay, how do we position BMW versus Mercedes? Oh, BMW is the ultimate driving machine. Oh, that's different. You know, we can argue this for a while, you know, over whiskey, but but it sells. You know, we all believe that a BMW driver is different from a Mercedes driver and an Audi driver and a Jaguar driver and a Bentley driver. But fact of the matter is that we are not really solving a lot other than pushing more product onto the streets that we don't really need.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, one last question, Erich, is can this be done at a local or regional level? We've been talking about national and sort of global solutions for problems. You know, can this be done in a very small scale in a single market? Have you run across any examples of that?
But you know, so there is something that the concept that people talk about is local network effects versus global network effects. Mm-hmm. So many businesses have local network effects, not global ones. And for them to go global is actually doesn't add a lot of value. And a good example is actually Uber. We all know Uber as an example. Uber hopes for global network effects, which they don't, because nobody in New York drives a car in London. It's all local. So Uber has this massive problem that they have sold investors on these network effects, this platform advantage, but they don't have platform advantages. Locally, they do. In New York City, it's very profitable, but the success in New York City cannot map somewhere else. So the powerful, in my opinion, the powerful the powerful benefit of these new business models, like platforms, ecosystems, and interaction fields, is that they leverage these connectivities. And even if you have local network effects, you still can create a profitable business. Again, Uber is an example. With that, maybe a more popular example. There are plenty of smaller examples, but then I would exceed probably the time on the video here. I have a lot of passion for that to talk about those.
Great. Well, that's probably a pretty good place to wrap up, Erich.
Yeah.
Let me remind our listeners and viewers that today we are speaking with Erich Joachimsthaler, founder and CEO of Vivaldi Group and author of The Interaction Field, the revolutionary new way to create shared value for businesses, customers, and society. Erich, how can people connect with you online?
Well, it's simple. You go to my website, company website. It's simple. I chose the name Vivaldi, like the musician, because I thought, hell, he's Italian, Antonio Vivaldi, everybody should know. So www.vivaldigroup.com should be easy, right? It turns out that not everybody knows Vivaldi. so it's not that's the easy one. I also have a website that's more complicated, www.erichjoachimsthaler.com. I think everybody gives up on that one.
Well, that's okay. We can link to that one in the show notes page, Erich. We will link there, and also on the show notes page we will have the audio, video, and text versions of our conversation, and all of that, and any resources that we spoke about as well. So all of that will be at rogerdooley.com/podcast. Erich, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you. And if you don't read my book, read the Friction book, because my book solves some of the problems that Roger identifies. There we go.
Well, they won't need my book if they have your book. So read mine first. Although I think mine does offer a few solutions too. But anyway, Erich, thanks for being on the show. Take care.
Thank you. Absolutely, Roger. Most appreciated.